If you're in the market for a muscle car in 2024, you basically only have one option. That is going to be the Ford Mustang with a 5-liter V8. However, it seems like Dodge is playing around here. I think they're going to unveil pretty soon that this SRT Daytona concept that they unveiled a while back that was all electric is actually going to have internal combustion engine versions as well. I certainly hope so, because to me, Dodge is, specifically the Challenger, still the king of muscle cars. It's one of the best looking retro-inspired designs of all time, in my opinion. It's a shame that they're killing that off. But it looks like we might have some hope here for them to actually continue the internal combustion engines, and I want to show you exactly why, and then compare the Charger Daytona concept to the Challenger, and let me show you what exactly is improved, and compare the two designs from a front, side, and rear, and also the interior, which drastically needed an update for the Challenger. So let's have a look at this article from The Drive first of all. So we have leaked factory pics that suggest gas engine will survive. A transmission tunnel is something you don't always find on an EV. That is correct. That would be very strange. And here you can see these leaked photos. So this looks like it could house, I mean, if you've seen the concept, which you're going to have a look at in just a second, it definitely looks like it could house a big V8 under the hood. And I hope that is going to be the case for the top level trim levels of the new Challenger and Chargers. You can see here that we do have sort of what looks like could be a transmission tunnel, even though it's very, very shallow in this area right here. But this could also be something to house some of the battery components or something like that for the EV. So we already knew that an electric version of its Charger Daytona SRT concept was on the way, but now it seems like there will be an internal combustion engine version as well. It looks as though the car definitely has space for a transmission and a drive shaft, and the engine bay is also clearly configured to accommodate either an inline 6 or even a V8. You can see just how much space we have right here in the front end. And it also, as I said, it sits on the STLA large platform, which can be configured either way. So you can configure it to be in a complete EV, or you can have it with internal combustion engines as well. That's how this platform was engineered. And I've heard somewhere, I can't remember the source for it, but I heard that Stellantis are investing millions, and I believe it was even up in the billions, to develop new internal combustion V8s. So I hope that that is the case, and again, that is going to be a version of this, because this design is just meant to have an internal combustion engine in it. The transmission tunnel is admittedly a little shallow, but it's possible that there's a false floor where the battery lives in the electric version of the car, and the drive shaft goes through that. Here you can see some more photos of this, and of course I'm going to link this down in the description if you want to go and read this full article. But with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here, because I just love this design of the Challenger Daytona concept, because I think it looks so cool. It still has this retro vibe, and I still think that the current Challenger up top still has a very modern, timeless feel to it. And that's what happens when you take a design from the 60s and you make it into a modern version this well. It's going to live on for a very, very long time. Keep in mind that the first Challenger in this form came out in 2007, and it's still in production 2023, even though it's ending now. But that's just how long this design has been in production. The only thing they changed were the facelifts. So you had new LED headlights, which again didn't ruin the design at all. It just made it even more modernized with the same type of proportions. And in this case, we do have the very, very cool wide body kit on this. I believe this is a Hellcat up here. So this is a timeless design, and it's very sad to see this go. But if Stellantis and Dodge manages to put a V8 under here, the only thing that seems to be a little bit problematic with a V8 under the hood is that you see this air scoop that we have here. So this entire grille, this entire slot here is completely open, so air flows in here and then flows up on the hood right here. You can see just how much space this takes out from the front end design. That could be a problem when it comes to fitting a V8 engine under here, but I'm not so sure, because still it is a very boxy front end, and maybe behind this, if we can fit a V8 behind this, that means that it's going to sit almost on top of the front axle or even a little behind the front axle. And you know what that means for handling? It means that it's going to be a fantastic car when it comes to taking corners. Think about that when you think about Challengers and taking corners. It's not really what they were supposed to do, just go fast in a straight line. But looking at these two designs, I think there are two fantastic designs, and this is actually called a Charger, even though it is a two-door, which is pretty weird. But this is also going to be a very timeless design, and a design that it can definitely keep in production for a very long time, just based on the simple lines and the proportions. Now, looking at the side view of these two beauties, we have the classic proportions and styling of the 2023 Challenger up here. Absolutely beautiful, and as I said, I think this is one of the best designs to come out of the mid-2000s. It's been in production since 2007 again. It's an old design, but when you have proportions and styling like this, it just becomes a much more timeless design. And you have these three-box design, classic muscle car proportions with a very vertical front end, very vertical rear end, and you have these boxes for the trunk, you have the box for the greenhouse, and last but not least, you do have the box for the front end to house this big V8 up front. But the big changes here, comparing this to the Charger concept down low, the biggest difference that kind of hints that this is an EV to me is if you look at the wheelbase. The wheelbase of the current Challenger looks pretty normal to me. It looks like a normal internal combustion engine. Now, looking at the proportions and the wheelbase of the Charger Daytona concept, you can see just how much longer this wheelbase is. And what this needs to happen because you do have the battery pack sitting down below here, and if you have this long of a wheelbase, it also helps with the internal space, the space for the interior to kind of stretch everything out. You're allowed to do that since you don't have all the mechanical features that you do in an internal combustion engine. But since this is a platform that could be modified to both be an internal combustion engine and an EV, it's interesting that they went with these proportions. I guess they favored the proportions a little bit of an EV over internal combustion engine, but that's totally fine because I think it still looks really cool. And we still have the three-box design, as you can see front. We have the greenhouse right here with the fat C-pillar in this case as well. The only thing that I would like to change here is to just, you see this piece right here. If we look at the let's remove this so I can show you. So if you look at this greenhouse up here of the normal Challenger, and you can see where the thick C-pillar here, if we put the center point of this right here, the center line of the C-pillar, and then just go straight down, you can see that it sits just in front of the center of the rear axle. So if we do the same on the Charger Daytona concept, we sketch this out, we have the thick C-pillar here, we make a single line right in the middle, center of it. You can see that it now comes behind it. So it feels like the greenhouse is turning almost into sort of a shooting brake design because the C-pillar sits so far back. So what I would like to do is just to simply push this forward just a little bit. And if we do that, this is what happens. You can see the difference in the proportions and just how much more internal combustion-like it gets when you just push this forward just a couple of inches. I think it looks so much better to have a longer trunk and a smaller greenhouse and still have the center of the C-pillar now being almost right in the middle of the rear axle. So that's the only change that I would like to do to the concept down low. When this first came out, I wasn't sure about these wheels, what I thought about them. I thought they looked a little messy, but now that I think about it, they kind of remind me of classic American racing wheels with some new take on it, because you can see these intakes, or not intakes obviously, but these holes that we have in the framing of the wheel. To me, it makes it feel like an original, a classic design with a new take to modernize the old muscle car wheels in a new way. And then of course we have the beautiful lines in the body of this car as well, classic muscle car proportions. I really want to see this with a big 500 horsepower V8 underneath the hood. So here you can see this it looks almost like a hunchback design when you have a look at it from this angle, comparing it to the normal Challenger up top, which has a proper trunk in the back. Here again, it becomes more of a shooting brake design because this sticks back so far into the trunk, and that's the reason why I just want to push this rear end forward just a little bit. But I do like the design that we have going on in the rear end. Very classic, very horizontal and vertical, just like you want in a proper muscle car. Now, last but not least, let's have a look at these interiors. So the Challenger of 2023 desperately needed an update for the interior. Personally, I don't care about that. I think this is an interior that still, at least for me, it still works today. I got everything I need. I got a manual transmission. I got the buttons and dials for the climate control settings. This looks like maybe an 8 or 7 inch screen, which is totally fine. I don't need any bigger than that. Simple vents. We have analog tachometer and speedometer with a screen in the middle. So for me, everything looks fine. It's just the overall styling and the curvatures and the organic feel that we have in here that's been around for a very long time. They kind of needed an upgrade. And I do think that the new Charger Daytona concept down here, they did a really good job with this interior. And as you can see, even though this is called a concept, this is 100% what the production version is going to look like, because you have everything here that is production ready. There's nothing in here that I see that needs to be modified for the production version. Maybe the ambient lighting that goes up here and in the doors, maybe this is a little too bright, specifically in this area. So maybe we're just gonna have a small diffused LED up there and not just see the full brightness of it like we do here. I also love this red and sort of black interior, and the new steering wheel looks fantastic as well, with some buttons and some different trim pieces in the sides of the steering wheel and the red accents at the bottom, SRT in the middle. It looks like we do have a fully digital gauge cluster, obviously, and I don't think, it doesn't look like we have a cap for it in this case, but I think it's totally fine because it sits rather deep behind the steering wheel and it doesn't stick up too much like a lot of other displays do these days. So overall, I think it's a good idea, 100% to put internal combustion engines in the new Charger Daytona concept. And based on these spy photos that I just showed you, I think they're actually going to do that. And I can't wait to see what kind of a beast that thing is going to be.